Hi everyone, my name is Volma Volcy with the Ring of Democracy. The Ring of Democracy is a nonprofit organization founded in 2016. Our main goal is to engage, educate, organize, and mobilize people of color, specifically black and brown folks. So today we are here with Assemblymember Kevin McCarty, who is running for Sacramento mayor. And our purpose for being here today, Mr. McCarty, is so we can talk to our audience and to folks who wouldn't normally have an opportunity to go to a debate or run into you to have a conversation. So our goal is to circulate this information as far and as wide as possible, and hopefully folks can get, voters can get to know you a little bit. As we get started, we want to give you a couple minutes to basically just introduce yourself and just kind of like let us know why you're running for mayor.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm running for mayor of my hometown of Sacramento. This has been a great city to me and my family are raising our teenage daughters here. And, I believe in public service. I believe that government can help people, help families, help communities, help people, get better jobs, live in safe neighborhoods, have opportunities for personal growth, have opportunities for everybody. I have served prior as a city council member, as a state assembly member, always focusing on solving problems, making a difference in people's lives. And I know that government can make a difference in people's lives. It helped me and my family when I was growing up here. We were in a single parent household, and not a lot of money. I think we moved 9 times. My first before I was even a teenager. So I know what it means to need programs and city programs and government programs to succeed, whether they're after school programs, child care programs, education programs, safe neighborhoods. I'm looking to further my opportunity to make a difference. I know I can do more for Sacramento. So I'm excited to serve my hometown of Sacramento. And we need to move our city forward, but we also need to kind of change a little bit, a new direction in some issues as well.
Oh, thank you so much for that. You just mentioned, growing up, all the different time you moved, growing up in a single parent household. So with all of that, with all the challenges, what are some of the, I guess, favorite memories of yours from just growing up in your childhood?
Yeah, I would say, let me think of it. You stumped me right here. I'll give you 2. My mom went to school at night and worked during the day. So my little brother and I rode our bikes to sports programs to, tackle football, flag football, basketball, baseball. We played sports after school, and we, had programs at our city parks, in the gyms, even in the school sites. And so, those programs kept us healthy, kept us mainly out of trouble. But also gave my mom an opportunity to focus on what she needed to do as well. So, I have fond memories of that, and I think about our youth today and our families today. It's even way more expensive to pay for those programs, and so I think cities can have a role in that. The other big memory I have is I'm thinking a lot about, housing and moving around. I remember when my mom first bought a house and, what it meant to her to focus on home ownership for the first time. I think I was 14 or 15, and someone gave us a used lawnmower. My mom said, "That's your job, Kevin, to figure out how to use this lawnmower and mow the lawn." So, having stable housing, means a lot to families, and it's so hard to buy a house today, let alone to rent a house. So that's one of my 2 of my top priorities is programs for our youth, for families, and also housing affordability, not only for families, but for renters, for young people, for seniors, and that trickles down to issues related to homelessness as well. We need to build way more housing at all income levels.
Thank you for that. And we're going to touch on both housing and homelessness in a sec here. But just to kind of like go off what you were just saying around in regards to after school programs, I have some little ones myself, right? There are, thankfully, city-provided after-school programs like 4th R that are available for a kid that's in elementary school. But there doesn't seem to be a lot around for like a kid who's in high school.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so what would you say what would be our way of addressing that?
Well, after-school programs, for kids are key when they're little kids, elementary school. It's about safety. You need to make sure the kids are safe when mom or dad is working. But for teenagers, they're key as well because, focusing on academic achievement. But also if you talk to, people in law enforcement, police chiefs or our district attorney's office, they'll tell you that, prime time for juvenile crime is between 3 and 6. So after school programs help families keep kids out of trouble, keep them out of the juvenile justice system many times. And so one thing that I want to do as mayor is use my experience and my relationships to bring more money to Sacramento to help families. Let me give you one example. A couple years ago, when I was in the legislature, I'm winding down my tenure right now, I wrote the law that says universal after-school programs are going to be for every community. They're going to be free for every kid, every family, regardless of income. That's a big deal as well because childcare after school is expensive. So now we have grants going out to school districts and cities to expand after school for elementary and middle school. But the problem, Volma, is we don't have enough CBOs and nonprofits signing up to run these programs. So Sacramento is going to be turning that money back to the state of California, where it's going to be spent who knows where. It could go back in the general fund. It could go to other areas in the general fund. So that's a big priority of mine, is to help families, but also maximize opportunities for Sacramento to bring in money to do what we already do anyway. The city, as you mentioned, runs youth and after-school programs. We need to do more. So how can I work at connecting the dots? And I think that's what's important to have a mayor with experience, because it's not just about ideas and giving speeches. It's about pulling the levers of government and connecting the dots and making things work. And that's what I'm going to do for my city of Sacramento.
Yeah, thank you for that. So you mentioned the DA, the police chief, give you all the numbers, especially between 3 to 6 when all the, I guess, craziness happens amongst youth. Do you think that bleeds into the rate of violence that we're seeing, or drug use, or any of that for our young kids?
Absolutely. First of all, I have teenagers right now, and I know the pressures they have, and kids come home with access to vape cigarettes and cannabis-laced vapes, and alcohol enters in young kids' ages as well. So I know the pressures as well, and also just mischief as in general. I was a teenager, so were you. I got in all kinds of trouble.
Yep.
I never ended up in juvenile hall, but I had my fair share of stories where I probably should have been.
You didn't get caught.
I didn't get caught, exactly. But that gave me a lot of street smarts, Volma, which makes me a very, I think, an effective politician, is all those street smarts. But I think these youth programs, can help with the temptations. And look, let's face it, not all kids are going to want to go to these programs after school, but at least it's available. And, I give this example many times that when I was a young council member, I got a call from our police chief on a Saturday night. It was about 9 o'clock at night. And normally when the police chief calls you on your phone, that's a bad call. Something terrible had happened, something horrific. And so sure enough, he called me and said a young teenage girl, 15, was shot, direct hit right to the face. She survived. And he said it was right in front of the community center, just down the street here, the George Sim Community Center in Southeast Sacramento, which is my district. And I went there, a couple of days later, and I looked at the sign and looked at their hours, and they're closed in the evenings and nights. I'm like, this girl was messing around with a bunch of teenage kids and got some mischief. Girls got in a fight. She was shot in the face. I'm like, why can't we open up those centers on a Friday and Saturday night? So I actually started this program 15 years ago called the Hotspot program, and now they're calling them pop-ups, where we open up the community centers different hours, because these centers should be open at night for our young people to use to stay out of trouble. Maybe they won't all go there, stay out of trouble, but at least we'll have an opportunity to do something productive. Yeah,
no, thank you for that. And we'll transition a little bit to housing a little bit here. I know as an assembly member, you work really hard to get a JPA with the city, and I mean, at least at the legislature, you work for that with the city and the county, but it's not working, and you are getting ready to become, or you are running to become our next mayor, and all of this will be on your plate if you were to be elected in January. So how do you plan on dealing with some of that, especially because city and county don't seem to be seeing eye to eye?
Yeah.
So how would you address that?
Well, I guess the big picture is that some of our biggest problems, we need to work on them together. Issues related to homelessness, for example. Homeless individuals don't always see the lines. They go from, Elk Grove to Sacramento County to Sacramento City to West Sac. You can, walk all that in a day. So we need to make sure that we understand that we're all in this together. And one of the things that I think we're lacking is coordination for a few reasons. One, we need to maximize our dollars. And the county of Sacramento has roughly 10 times more money for human services, health and human services, and homeless housing programs than the city. So it's smart for us to work with them. A lot of homeless individuals certainly have needs, behavioral health needs, healthcare needs, other social service needs. So the county is a provider of that, not the city of Sacramento. And last year, our Sacramento County grand jury actually wrote a report and talked about the failings of us to respond to homelessness in Sacramento. And one of their top findings was we're not working together enough. And so I really want to, bring a structured partnership, how we can work on these issues in tandem. And you mentioned a JPA, which is Joint Powers Authority. We have half a dozen or more already in Sacramento. We have some regulating cable TV channels, some on air quality, some on the library, some on public transportation. We have one on wastewater, our solid waste system. We have all these JPAs, but not a JPA on the number one issue that people want us to tackle, homelessness. So I think that's a failure of the system. So I'd like us to get together and work on these issues in concert. And I feel optimistic. I think the city and the county relationship has gotten better. And I also have the endorsement from the majority of the county board of supervisors. So I think that'll help me, being the mayor of Sacramento.
Well, that's great. I'm happy someone has a plan, right? Because right now, it looks like folks are just not working together when I think we should be. And while we're on the topic of homelessness, the Supreme Court recently, ruled that being homelessness is sort of illegal in a way, right? And we've seen the city, the county, just making moves just to make sure they are cleaning up the street to some extent, like taking the homeless folks off the streets. So when that happens, right, where do you think these people go? And do we have a plan to make sure we're taking these folks off the street and not just displacing them just so they can be homeless again? And what happens with the ones who don't want to go anywhere or don't have the ability to go anywhere?
Well, there's a lot going on here, but I think the big picture is that cities can't allow these encampments, these growing encampments. They're not safe to have these, massive encampments under freeways, in neighborhoods, at city parks. So I don't support urban camping, and the Supreme Court came down on that, saying that cities can't enforce that, and other cities are right now doing that. So if Sacramento doesn't enforce the law, our problem will get worse because people will come from West Sacramento and other jurisdictions. So we need to be mindful about that too. We need to enforce the law. It needs to be safe for neighborhoods to be able to go around, neighbors to be able to walk around their community. And it's a big issue. I talked about on the campaign trail. My kids, when they were in middle school a couple years ago, they had to walk around encampments just trying to get up from school, and they're 13, 14 years old. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to run for mayor. I didn't like what I was seeing, but conversely, I didn't like that we didn't have enough common sense solutions. I think we need compassion in telling people where they can go. And one thing that really frustrates me about our response too often is the city wants, I say the Cadillac version for individuals that are homeless. And we only, our problems are this high and our resources are this high. So one thing I want to do is on the first day that I'm mayor, I want to commission an audit and analysis of our homeless spending. Not because I think there's money being illegally siphoned off or any fraud or anything like that, but we fund 5 or 6 programs, and which ones are the most cost effective? Which ones give us the most bang for our buck? Because we need to be able to tell people when we enforce this no camping ordinance where they can go. So that means we need to have more locations. So I support some of these safe ground sites, which I think are way cheaper than an apartment for every homeless person. And a safe ground site can be a place where there's tents or where there's tiny homes, and where there's services and water and bathrooms, and services available to come by too to help individuals get on Medi-Cal, get their medication if needed, deal with their behavioral health needs, get a driver's license, maybe apply for a job.
No, thank you for that, sir. But what do you think that it's not happening now then?
I think too often we're spending money on the Cadillac solution. And let me give you an example. The dream scenario for advocates, I don't blame them. They want individuals to live in, they call it permanent supportive housing for a homeless individual. And to build those, not debating, it's just the facts are the facts. It costs about $600,000. So in the city of Sacramento, we have 3,000 homeless people. If you divide how much we get every year for homeless money from the state, $25 million divided by $600,000 roughly a unit, we could only build roughly 40 units a year to put in permanent supportive housing. So we have 3,000 homeless people. We're going to be like, hey, you 40 people, we're giving you a lottery ticket. But what about the other 2,900 plus who don't have anywhere to go? So what I want to do is use our money in a more smart way to have more cost-effective places where people can go.
Yeah, thank you for that. So homelessness, that's one end of the problem, right? But we have housing.
Yeah.
Right? There aren't enough affordable housing around. If you look right now, the average one bedroom, one bathroom is probably like $1,500 in the Sacramento region. While workers are still making less than $20 an hour, or like most workers, especially the people that we're talking about, right? Most of your voters. So how do we make it? And I know this is mainly not your job as mayor, but also it is those people are your people. They will be your people. You'll be responsible for some of them. How do we get it to a point where we have enough housing so affordable housing can actually be a reality in Sacramento?
Well, I disagree with you. That is my job as mayor. It is our job to help build more housing. Yeah, and it's something that's a big part of my plan. We talked about the impact on homelessness. We need more housing at the affordable end to get people from the river to a tiny home, to transitional, and then to an apartment. So we need to build way more multifamily housing and all that. But I'm really concerned about, my kids' generation who are 16 years old. They're going to go away to college in a couple years, and when they can't come back, can they afford to come back? Or will they want to be like, no, I'm going to go live in Utah or Arizona or somewhere else? Because Sacramento, our housing costs, we're squeezing people out. We're losing people now, and we're losing our talent. So if we don't get people to come back, it's going to be a big drain on our economy. And families see that left and right. So we need to look for all kinds of solutions to build more housing. So I want to do 3 things in that front. First of all, my first day in office, I'm doing 2 things. One, I told you earlier, I'm going to do the audit on homeless spending. Number 2 is I'm going to convene a blue ribbon commission to meet and come up with recommendations to reform our building department to make it easier to build housing. We always hear how painful it is for somebody who's adding another room in their house or building an ADU on their property. or building an affordable housing complex, or building a big apartment complex in Sacramento, how time-consuming and difficult it is in our building department. So if we can streamline and cut red tape, people will say, oh, okay, I'll come to Sacramento as opposed to Stockton or El Dorado Hills and build that project. So that'll go a long way. And I've talked to people in the building industry, and they say, amen, that thing would go a long way. Because cities don't control a lot of things. You don't control interest rates, we don't control labor costs, material costs, but we control time and certainty. So if we control the time, how long it takes to get the building permit, and more certainty, how the process, then people will want to do more business in Sacramento. We could build more housing, get more money in our budget, and have a tremendous help. I'm thinking about, our economy's changed in the last few years. People are working remotely, so our state workers have left downtown. And I saw this during the pandemic, so I actually wrote a law that is now being implemented and, turning these lemons into lemonade, and we're converting some downtown offices to housing. And the first one is the EDD building on Capitol Mall, that we're building 500 affordable housing units right there. Next, we're going to focus on the courthouse, which is moving to another courthouse. And there are a couple other buildings. And so, we need to focus on, land that's downtown that's not being utilized anymore, how we can build more housing. And the last thing that I support is going to the voters and putting a measure on the ballot to help, fund the build out of more housing at all income levels, use some of that money too to pay for a fund for helping first-time home buyers with down payment assistance. So, I think there are a number of options that we can put forward as a city to build more housing.
Yeah, that's great. And I have a question around, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this. A lot of times when we need to house the unhoused, we have sometimes put them in hotels, right, in the city of Sacramento. And we have sometimes put them in neighborhoods where there were conflicts because folks from those neighborhoods didn't want some of that just because of, what they consider to be safe or unsafe. What do you think about housing people in neighborhoods where there are like plenty of families already who may disagree or not with just the unhoused coming into their neighborhoods?
I would say, we're all in this together. Every neighborhood has a shared responsibility. We can't be a neighborhood that says, I don't want those people sleeping in my parks right here and then ship them all to South Sacramento or somewhere else. Like, we need to have options all across the city of Sacramento. And it doesn't have to be, a negative. There are a number of these sites where they're good neighbors. We can't have encampments outside of them, but we need to do a much better job of opening these throughout the city. And also, I don't think it's always government that needs to be doing this. Why can't we give some of the money we get for homelessness and give it to business organizations, nonprofits, churches? Like, hey, do you want to build a 10 or 15 tiny homes on your property back there? I think there are other options that probably are more cost effective, get back to my earlier issue, and then we can spread it out and have more opportunities to serve homeless individuals.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We're getting ready to close. And before we do, I'd like to give you an opportunity here, Mr. McCarty, to talk directly to the voters to let them know why you should be their next mayor and what they get out of that transaction as well,
Yeah.
right?
Well, look, we have a couple good candidates, and I think that I'm the candidate most likely to be effective and solve our problems. This is a job where experience matters. I've served as a city commissioner, a housing commissioner. I've served as a city council member. I've served as your state assembly member, always solving problems, always coming to solutions from big problems to small problems. And I'm going to work with our leaders here, our city council members, our supervisors, our legislators, our congressional representatives. The majority of them have endorsed my campaign, as has our firefighters, our labor council, our building trades, construction unions, our police officers. They've seen my work up front and know that I can bring about common sense solutions to our problems. And that's what I'm going to do for my city of Sacramento, the city that is amazing. And look, we talk a lot about our problems. And I always walk around on my campaign with a little bottle because I'm always glass half full. Sure, we spend a lot of time talking about our challenges, but we have a lot of great stuff in our city too. We have great nonprofits, great community leaders, great organizations. So I want to build upon those strengths and build a better Sacramento and move forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, sir, thank you for taking the time. Good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.